Generation Alpha, Generation X, and Governor Polis. When you look at Generation Alpha, Generation X, there's two facets. There's the immigrant community, and there's kids and education. I've been blessed enough to know Governor Polis for close to 20 years. I can speak to his commitment to education and reaching out to immigrants. If there's ever been a stronger champion the state has had, I doubt that. When it comes down to immigrants, I know some of these kids up here. They came up. I know their parents. When we look to the future, look to panels like this. Let them inspire you. Let them challenge your assumptions. With panels like this, I'm not doubting the future.
Thank you, James, for the kind introduction. It's exciting to see everybody here. Happy Denver Startup Week, everybody. What better way to look at startups than to look at some of our youngest startup leaders that we have on this wonderful panel today. You know, Colorado is very proud of our startup culture. We are the best state for entrepreneurship to start new companies. We needed only $1 to start a new company in Colorado. To remove barriers to entrepreneurship, it was $75. It may not seem like a lot, but if you only have $300 to start your company, $75 is a lot, a quarter of your budget. And to make that only $1, guess what? New businesses increase, the number of new businesses that were taken out. We're really excited to foster an environment in Colorado that supports innovators and entrepreneurs of all ages. And while it might be a little unusual to see such young innovators and entrepreneurs here today, there truly are people of all ages, from their 10s to their 90s, that are really doing great things and creating value here in Colorado. I look forward to learning from some of our youngest innovators as part of this panel, and I hope that they get to participate in the rest of Denver Startup Week and attend some of the other panels as well. Denver Startup Week has really grown to become a major success, a major asset to the greater Denver community. We celebrate startups across the region, not just Denver, Fort Collins, Boulder, Jefferson County, Colorado Springs. In many ways, we're a state of startups. We also are a state that has had something fairly unique in leadership. When I complete my term of governor in about 3.5 years, our state will have had 16 years of an entrepreneur as governor. No state has ever had that before. States have had business people that have led it for 18 years, but Governor Hickenlooper and I were both people that were entrepreneurs that started companies. And so that very much fits the ethos of the state. It fits the character of our state. We're a state that supports innovation and entrepreneurship at all ages. We have business plan competitions at most of our major universities. I've been on judging panels for some of those. We have a hotbed of support for mentorship networks and for angel funding networks across the region. And raising capital is never easy, but there's a lot more formal structures around raising capital than there were 20 years ago or there were 40 years ago. So that's an exciting development. We're a town of Denver Startup Week as part of this, where people can get the skills they need to turn their idea into reality, to meet a networking group that can support them, and peers that will be able to support their work as entrepreneurs. And that starts with our very youngest entrepreneurs. With that, I will be happy to turn it over to our wonderful young entrepreneurs here today, Ronan, Parsa, and Calliope. Over to you.
Thank you, Governor. My name is Arzu Zarafshan, and I will be moderating this panel. And I am so delighted to have this opportunity to talk to our youngest entrepreneurs. What we have here is a series of conversation points. We have dedicated 15 minutes at the end, maybe a little less now, for Q&A. So please hold your questions for the end, but we encourage a lot of questions and a lot of interactions with our entrepreneurs. So why don't we take turns and introduce ourselves, and you all have something to read on your card. So let's go from Ronan.
Hello, my name is Ronan, and I am in 7th grade. And are you going to ask the icebreaker question?
Your question is, you can read it.
So my little icebreaker question is, if I were to be a superhero, what power would I get? I'm not going to go too unicorns and rainbows here, but I'm going to say to be able to have a better mindset, to fix more problems, and inspire more young entrepreneurs to help me with that.
Parsa?
Hello, I'm Parsa. I'm in 6th grade, and my icebreaker question is, if you could meet anyone, living or dead, who would it be and why? My answer to this is probably Albert Einstein, because if we say that if you can meet the person, then that means you magically resurrect them from the dead. He could still have a few extra hours, minutes, I don't know, let's say days, to solve the unification of gravity and particle physics. But yeah.
Okay. And Calliope.
So, my name is Calliope. I'm in 6th grade, and my icebreaker question is: if you met an alien from another planet, and you had to describe humans in one sentence, what would you say? And I would basically break it down into like the most simplest form of a human, which is a head, torso, and usually limbs.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so this is a common common question for all three of our panelists. So I invite the first one, whoever wants to take the first spot, to answer this question. What problem are you passionate about solving? Go ahead, Parsa.
Well, as for me, I'm passionate about solving the problems with the pollution of our waterways, especially the oceans. Every year, millions of pounds of trash impact millions of communities and prevent them from having safe drinking water.
Very good. And what about you, Ronan?
I would say two subjects here. One is what problems do migrants face while getting a job? And another is what immigrants need when they come to the U.S., and not just the U.S. in general, but Colorado.
And what about you, Calliope?
So, one problem or like one or two problems that I'm looking to solve are to solve some of the problems in the education system, including teacher pay and funding schools in rural communities so that all children can kind of get like equal or close to equal education.
Great. So Calliope, talk more about that. What's going on with teacher pay and education access? Go ahead.
Well, teachers, they put a lot of work into like educating students and helping them learn things, but this actually did affect me kind of personally. They don't really get paid enough money for what they do. I remember in 1st grade, all the teachers in my school went on strike to demand higher pay from DPS. And so now another problem that children in rural communities face is that sometimes the schools don't have enough money to send them to school for like more than 3 days a week, and they only go to school for 3 or 4 days a week. And this could affect their education because they can get behind on state standards because they don't have as much time to learn and study as a child in a more more urban community.
And go ahead, Ronan.
I would like to build off Calliope's answer, and I would say most of our society is taking teachers for granted. Like, Mom, would you be here without some of your teachers? Or any of you, would you be here without some of your teachers? Because they're the ones who really, not just the teaching part of the aspect, but how they teach you, what their personality is. I had a teacher last year. His name was Mr. GT. And he had this super interesting way of learning, or teaching. And what he would do is he would kind of create a slideshow, and we would learn about all of the United States, South America, Panama, all those places. And we would learn about their culture, their foods, and that type of stuff. And I thought that was the best type of learning because it was more interactive than any of the other learning that I've had in the entire school.
Very good. Now, you are very passionate about immigration, right? So talk more about that. What got you so interested?
Well, there are multiple reasons I'm interested in immigration. One is that my mom and dad are immigrants, and when they tell me stories about I kind of feel like I'm there with them, and I experience what they're experiencing. And when I go onto the news or read the news, I see what other immigrants are facing. I kind of feel like I'm there with them as well, and I currently have the ability to help them. So that's what I should do. If you have the ability, you should keep going with it.
Okay, and talk more about what you have done to understand the problems that immigrants face, and how do you think about solving those problems?
Well, one way I think of solving these problems is mostly talking with my mom and dad and doing research. When me and my mom were talking, she kind of implanted a few ideas in me that kind of grew into a tree. One was simply at school, if you're not if you're not big in connections with other people, you can just simply go to school. And if you've seen a migrant and they have some materials that they need, and you can go to school, and let's say someone else had a baby shower and they get a ton of baby materials. And let's say the other migrant had a baby and they don't have enough baby materials. What you can do is simply connect them and kind of trade off what the materials. This is also good because it kind of has a domino effect. Let's say that immigrant kind of incorporates into the community of the other person who gave them the materials. You don't need to slowly kind of like build connections. They've already have a connections, and what can happen is the immigrant can feel obliged to kind of give back what they got, and it kind of builds up the relationship from there.
Have you heard of a term circular economy? Yeah. So that's what I'm hearing that you're talking about, is creating that circular economy for the immigrants. What about you, Parsa? So you talked about oceans and health, water health. So talk more about that. What do you know?
Well, although there are many businesses, companies, even fisher people that pollute our waterways and oceans every, day, there are also several companies committed to cleaning these. For example, the Ocean Cleanup, which uses long U-shaped nets to collect trash. However, there aren't many companies out in the world that try and stop the source of the trash at its root, which is these sources that are putting the trash there in the first place.
And so how do you think, as a young entrepreneur, if you had all the time and or all the money in the world, how would you go about solving this?
Well, I would try and make the world aware of how much pollution there is, because 8 billion people is a very powerful resource. And even if each person did just a tiny bit, we would have the entire ocean cleaned in a matter of days.
What about you, Calliope? Talk to me about education and lack of access and or teachers' pay. And what are your ideas? How would you go about solving this problem?
So one thing I think I would do to solve children in rural communities not getting enough education or having trouble getting education is to make after-school clubs, so that way they could even if they weren't in school, you could have a parent or a volunteer teach them about something that's not in the normal school curriculum, but that could be helpful to learn or be interesting to learn about. And then, so my mom is from Montana, and she said that one of her friends was in one of the more rural towns or cities in Montana, and she said that they had clubs for these kids to learn things like foreign languages and more advanced literacy and math and things like that.
Now, all three of you are in school, right? And so you have your schoolwork, you have your extracurricular activities, and then you have your passion for the cause. Let's start with Ronan. How do you balance? I mean, you talked about a lot of research that you've done just in the past couple of weeks. How do you balance doing your schoolwork and thinking about solving the problems for immigrants?
Well, I don't have over amount of extracurricular activities after school, but I was lucky enough to be sick for the past few days and be able to get my act together and stop lying around in bed and doing some news watching. And I would say usually when I am not sick, as I said, I sometimes just kind of wander around the house and not do anything too useful. I would always kind of have this imagination that I would be doing something else. And what I would say is now that I've gotten kind of older than last year, I kind of can snap myself out and kind of try to think, what can I do currently that will help me in either school or soccer? So this reminds me of last year when I put way too much, I had too many extracurricular activities. I had soccer, karate, all that type of stuff. And once it came on me, I just couldn't do everything at once. And I realized that next year, once I have to sign up through these for these extracurricular activities again, I should try to manage my time correctly and think through it instead of going, oh, this is fun, signing up for both of it and then realizing only a month later I can't do both of these things at the same time.
So you're prioritizing your time? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but one thing is you should have a rest time, because when I was practicing last night about giving my own answers to these speeches, or to these questions, I sort of was overthinking it. I was saying one word instead of the other, and my brain was overstimulated. And I kind of just had to take a little bit of a rest time, and it helped me refocus.
And what about you, Calliope?
So one thing I do to balance my school and extracurricular activities and the panel is that, so I try to get all my homework done at this thing called Power Hour at school, which is a 40-minute block where you can get your homework done and other missing assignments done, so that I have less at home. And then also, I don't know why this is, because I didn't really plan this, I have activities on pretty much every weekday except Wednesday. Soon I'm gonna have orchestra, violin, climbing, babysitting, and aerial throughout the week. But sometimes it's just helpful to have the one Wednesday where I don't really have anything after school that I need to do, so I just have time to do the homework that I didn't get done during Power Hour.
Parsa?
Okay, good. Well, something I hear Calliope saying here is that two major blocks for studying her topic homework from school and also extracurricular activities. In my case, I don't really have many extracurricular activities, and they aren't that long. And as for homework, many of it is actually taken up by a school subject in which I'm actually able to research the things I'm passionate about, such as these oceans. So, cool.
All right, go ahead, Rana.
So I'd like to build off Calliope's answer. My school also does this little 40-minute time where we could do homework. And I find this really helpful because when I come home, I'm like, ugh, I have homework. And then I realize, I've done it. I can have free time. And then I also realize from my past answer that I don't need to wander around and do something random. I can prioritize either for any coming projects that I have in school, or for Denver Startup Week. Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. Did you want to add to it, Calliope? Go ahead, Parsa.
Although I agree with both of you, I think something about the setting of school makes you more productive. Maybe it's that break in between the car ride or bike ride or walk, your preferred mode of transport back home, or something about it. But it just seems like a more productive time when you're actually in school.
Okay, very good.
Is this too long? Or?
Yeah, we are a little bit, so let's move to the next, which is just the whole concept of entrepreneurship in your life and how that's helping you go about solving the problem that you're so passionate about. So I'm going to start with Parsa in this case. So tell me, what does that mean to you, entrepreneurship and solving the ocean problem, the ocean pollution problem?
Well, I think it just means that people, no matter where they are, who they are, or anything like that, them doing something to better the planet and our society. That's what entrepreneurship means to me.
One thing that could help with this is maybe getting like, what are they called? Like those like working unions, like of like teachers maybe, that could go like tell or like ask for higher pay from DPS because, or like whatever their like regional like school board is, and that could help with the teachers' pay problem. And then also one thing that could help with like the clubs is like maybe there could be like public libraries that they could like go study or research in to learn more about their school subjects in and like they could have like people like tutors maybe like that like teach like special topics at the library sometimes, so that people can have like extra classes that they can just go to and maybe pay a little bit of money to get into, and that money could go to the school, and then the school could use the money to maybe like save it up and then try to send the students to school for like maybe 4 or 5 days a week.
Okay, very good. Ronan?
For most people, entrepreneurship might mean starting a business. But for me, it's someone who doesn't have very many connections and who has a big idea and who's going through anything to fulfill it. I would say that entrepreneurship is also getting to meet new people with new ideas who have different views, so you can broaden your horizon, and that can help you in the future.
That's amazing. Good job. So now, I want all of you to think about your future, the future of this planet, the future of this world, and share with the audience what your vision is when it comes to your passion. What is your vision when it comes to immigration, Ronan? What is your vision, Parsa, when it comes to ocean? And same for education. So let's start with Calliope at this point.
So my goal or like vision of the future for education is that teachers can get paid what they deserve because they do deserve more than they are currently getting paid, and that children in like everywhere can get the education that they need, even if it's not like the traditional education that could like support them where they live, so that they can be successful in life and maybe like help other people out so that more people can be successful and not have a lot of like money worries or things like that.
Very good. And how would you go about inspiring others to care about this vision?
Well, I think that one thing that could really help children like school a lot is just like sometimes a good teacher can really, or like if you have a lot of like good teachers, well when you're going up the grades, like if you have some really good teachers through 1st through 5th grade, you might be kind of excited to meet your new teachers in 6th and 7th grade because you had all these good experiences through 1st through 5th grade. And then also you could inspire people by by maybe like helping them understand like how much the teachers actually do for them, and that the teachers kind of might deserve more. And then they could tell people about this and then get people, experts with credentials, to tell the school board that they think that the teachers deserve more.
Okay, so staying with you right now. So this audience right here, either they have children, or they know children, or they know teachers. What do you want this audience to walk away with? What's your ask?
I think that you should support children that are in all grades, especially if they're like struggling with a subject in school, and then also like so like support them, and so that they have less stress during school, which can cause school to be very hard for them.
Did you hear that? You all support the teachers. Thank you. What about you, Ronan? What's your vision for the future?
I would say that my vision for the future is when an immigrant and a person from here come into contact, I would say they sort of have a wall in between each other, unless they truly understand each other. I would say they will have a slight wall. And what I would want is that wall to be lifted, because we're all the same, or we're not all the same, but we're all humans. Whether we're from Asia, America, South America, we all came from one place. Meaning that just because we're from somewhere else, we have different views on different opinions, doesn't mean we should have that barrier between us.
And how would you inspire others to care about that vision?
Well, I mean, where are we right now? We're on a panel, and I think the point of this panel is to inspire other entrepreneurs and younger entrepreneurs to take action, stand up. I would also say that one thing I wish to happen, or for the future, is when immigrants come over to the U.S. and Colorado in general, they don't have to wait 2 years or 1 year to get their work permit. And one way to counter that is getting a new state law where it allows the immigrants to get a slight kind of work work pass. What? Visa, and like a temporary visa. So while they're waiting for their visa, they can still work as long as they know someone who will hire them.
Very good, very good. I'm going to come back to that. And Parsa, what about you? What's your vision for the future?
Well, for my vision, personally, I see a future where no one and no communities are displaced by pollution of rivers and oceans around the world. I see a future where everyone can enjoy safe drinking water and the ocean is free of all waste. And I would inspire people to do something about it. Well, personally, I think that social media is a very widespread form of communication, and if there's something that gains a little bit of traction there, I think it could reach many, many people.
Go ahead.
I have a huge thing to build off of this. So what I was going to bring up earlier, just couldn't, was that social media is a huge thing. So I've seen most adults go onto social media, just check out, and it can turn into 30 minutes. And I think it was the ALS, or the Ice Bucket Challenge, was a huge banger, because it helped people with, I think it was ALS, right? ALS. And it gained $177 million for research. And scientists, I think, found 11 new genes that have something to do with ALS, and if they can modify it, they can help with ALS. So I think something like that for immigration, for the oceans, or for getting teachers the money they need to keep going is probably, I think this is entrepreneurship, a very big idea, and a small group of people who can probably do this.
Very good. Now, this is my last question. So this is a recorded session, and I think many entrepreneurs, young or a little older than you, are watching this or will be watching this. What is your word of wisdom for them, starting with Ronan?
I would say my word of wisdom for you is when you're kind of lost in terms of entrepreneurship, ask yourself, what are you doing about entrepreneurship? Whether it's small, whether it's big, it doesn't matter. You're still doing something.
And what about you, Calliope? What's your word of wisdom?
I would tell them to take breaks sometimes to avoid burnout, because it can be really frustrating and slow you down and make you kind of dislike the topic that you're working on, or or the business that you're trying to start.
And you, Parsa?
Well, I would say that getting your message to a large number of people is pretty easy if you know how to do it. And in this case, I think it's actually a quantity over quality, because all the people of the world doing something can amount to more than just one person doing a big thing about it.
It's great. So give it up for our young entrepreneurs. They all took time off from school to come do this. So thank you, parents. At this point, we're going to open it up to question and answer. So any question for our young entrepreneurs here? Anyone?
Thank you, three, for being here. Super inspiring. Curious how you feel about misinformation's role in social media, and you've talked about some of the great big initiatives that you three want to accomplish. How do you feel about misinformation in today's world?
So one thing I think is that it can be really annoying because sometimes if you hear something, it can a couple times, even if you don't know it's from the same source, it can kind of get drilled into your mind. So like if you hear that like red pandas are the size of regular pandas over and over and over again, you're gonna believe it. So when you see like a picture of a red panda to scale, you're gonna think that it's too small. So I think putting sources so that people and especially more than one source, so that people can fact check you can be really good, because if they discover you're lying about something, it can be a big disaster for you and everyone involved.
Did you want to answer? Go ahead. Go ahead, Parsa.
Well, are you talking about misinformation with an M or disinformation with a D? Because in the case of misinformation, it's where someone accidentally provides the wrong information, and in that case, a slip up like that, it can spread widely, especially if it's some huge claim that's more likely to catch on, because now with social media, people are just geared to like the things they find more entertaining more. Whereas in the case of disinformation, it still has the same effect of misinformation, but with the disinformation and the real information clashing, both sides have very powerful tools at their disposal. These tools, of course, being the public, and it's very hard to see which one truly comes out on top.
I would say I'm just going to mix mis and disinformation here. There are a few types of misinformation. There is 1, people who just generally slipped up. 2, trolls. And 3, people who just generally don't know what they're talking about. So one simple way to counter misinformation in terms of people who just slipped up is to see how they slipped up, whether it came from another source, like Wikipedia, which can be changed very easily. Trolls, you just try to avoid them in general, because they're just going to try to keep coming back. And people who don't know what they're talking about, there are a lot of people like that. Just try to cite them to another source and see if that changes their mind. But if it's just completely they're like being really annoying, they're like going against everything you say, just try to ignore them a little, because you don't really need that much negativity in what you're trying to do.
Thank you. Other questions?
Hi. Each of you are incredibly inspiring. What would you say to someone your age or younger who would be looking to get into entrepreneurship? How would you help them to tackle some of the big problems that you're tackling? How could you help them to avoid maybe anxiety or fear?
So I've got a little experience with that. I'm hoping my little brother Toby joins the panel next year, and we are very excited to have him. I would say that when they're young, they kind of get straight off of the path, and I would say they're kind of jittery, and they laugh a lot because I told my brother he's going to have to make a speech to see what he reacted when he came up here, and he was like, no, I only have 1 day. I would say show them an inspiring video, something that really gets their brain moving, and tell them you're going to do great. And even if you do that, they're still going to think you're great if you mess up.
One thing that they could do to avoid anxiety is to take breaks and tell people about their ideas, because sometimes it can be really unhelpful to you if you're just doing it all by yourself, and like maybe 10 or maybe like you and a friend know about it and you're just both working on it. and you kind of can just like sometimes like hit a roadblock and not know where to go because it's only you and your friend that know about it and are working on it. So you could try to get some outside help and take breaks.
Well, I agree with Calliope that you should take breaks, but I'd like to build on that some. Have you ever heard the phrase, sleep on it, which means your subconscious is working on the problem as you sleep? But this doesn't occur just in sleep. It can occur in your waking moments when you're doing something other than the problem, and suddenly you just have that aha moment where you just figure it out. And also, taking breaks is good. Is also good because of the constant load you have if you don't, which can cause burnout, which is terrible for entrepreneurship.
Other questions? I think we have time for one last question.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, our young panelists, our entrepreneurs. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of Denver Startup Week.